you so much for that wonderful amazing introduction. Then I was looking around. Do you like my hat, by the way? And then I realized that it was actually me. Express honor. My room is a bit dark. I don't know whether I should turn off the video or you want to look at me. I don't know what works. Is that a problem?
You have a good smile. We want to look at you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Let me just make sure I look okay. Yeah, but thank you so much for the warm welcome. It's a great honor. I was reflecting that St. Luke 10 years or 13. That's when I was last there, or 2016 thereabout. What I did to you guys, why I wasn't called back, especially when I was following up with a few people who had been. But it's great to be here. Today we're talking about mental health. And mental health, I am honestly very happy that that the churches, especially for this church, that you're opening up your space for us to have conversations. Mental as a church, we've been very quiet about this, issue. And yet many of our members are plagued, battling this as a professional, as somebody who listens to who these people come to. I see many people. And of course, what I get to know about them is I have a form where they fill and usually they will indicate that they love God and they're Christians. So they have a church that they go to where they are members, but most times when they're going through these challenges, no one is, maybe, I don't know whether it's deliberate, but no one in the church perhaps is aware, and if they are, people don't know what to do with them. I have schizophrenia, and there's nobody who has visited them from the church, but maybe we could say that we could, these days we blame everything to the pandemic, to COVID and all those things. But what I can tell you is that they could do with support from the church, love and all those things, but they don't have that, and they feel lonely. And of course, when you have people with mental health, what do you think happens to their faith? What do you think happens to their prayer life? What do you think they study the Bible? Maybe not. They may not be able to. What is on their mind is money, and especially if they have to be, be on treatment and things like that. So I am very happy that we are having this conversation, and I hope that I'm using the word deliberately, conversation, because I want this to continue, so that today is not just that even the pandemic and the whole lockdown has exposed our vulnerability, from children to
Excuse me, Beatrice.
adults.
I think because of the connectivity, if you could switch off the video so that we can hear you are breaking.
Oh, I'm breaking. Okay, thank you. Okay. Yeah, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Oh my goodness.
It is better now. It's better now.
Okay, thank you. I was getting my mental health was now. Anyways, yeah, I was saying that in our spaces to talk about mental health, and we're being open. Normally when people have issues with mental illness, mental health, the first contact is it's usually the church, because they know that the church is a safe place, that someone in the church will pray with them, to listen to them. And so we need to be equipped, we need to know how to. Statistics worldwide, they say that 1 in 5, some say 1 in 4, but there's 1 in 5. You can count yourself. For example, we about what percentage is of affected by mental illness or health of sorts. Yeah, so that's something that it tells you that it's a global issue. It's not something that is limited to Uganda or to a particular family. You'll go down into Mbarara, wherever, and you'll find that there's someone, the poor people, there's a poor family that is being affected by mental health. So mental health is an issue that it's all disorder or challenge that at some point we'll experience in our lives. So they say it doesn't discriminate. We have some people who struggle with their mental health for years. While we'll have with medicine, mental and illness and disorder is a disturbance of and I don't know, I just another session where we I'm not feeling rushed, that we can talk about things in detail. We can talk about anxiety, we can talk about worries and bipolar and depression and the symptoms and all those and how we can work through this. Our focus, of course, today is about, mental healing. And I think for me, it is it's something that I'm excited about, because we need to focus on that, on God, because He is our healer. That's where our true healing comes from. And I liked the scripture that we were reading, reminding us to come to Him, we who are heavy burdened, because then we'll find rest. I think that's something that even just listen, I've listened to that scripture hundreds and hundreds of times, but every time I listen to it, I feel that sense of peace. I feel that sense of hope. I feel encouraged. I feel like I can look forward to the rest of the day or even tomorrow with greater hope. So so that was a great choice of scripture. But also we as a church, and the church does not only mean the space, it also means us as people. We need to be that exhibit, not just exhibit, but we need to create that space, that safe space, because people are surrounded by a lot of threats, in their homes, in their communities. I mean, already just you've had, and maybe you've seen, for some of you who have TVs and who read newspapers. I don't read those newspapers, not because I don't want, but it's just so I'm so busy with my life and other things. But people who have TVs and newspaper, who read newspapers, now the media is awash with bombs and everywhere, and I'm so confused, and that already is, is a trigger for towards our mental health, and it creates a lot of fear, uncertainty, and then people don't know what to do. Now, when you have mental illness, or when you have mental illness, that is even like exaggerated, that you become even more, vulnerable to that. When you don't even know that you have underlying mental illness, just news of such bad news even exaggerates it, and maybe it can trigger things that we didn't even know that was there. A few days ago, maybe just one night ago, I had in the middle of the night my neighbors, and I could hear the voice of a man, and he was screaming and shouting, and I don't know what had happened. I don't know whether he had news, bad news. I don't know, but it was a very disturbing noise coming from, the house and from the family. And I just, all I could do is, pray for them and wish them, God to just reach out to them. They're not Christians. They're people they're Hindus, but I know that for me, I believe in our true God, and I was in a good place. Maybe that's why I had the noise to be able to pray for them. What can we do as a church? How can we continue to create space for people who are vulnerable with mental illness? You and I know someone, it could be even a loved one, it could be a member of a church who is experiencing mental illness. As I've said, this is it's a process. It's some people will recover and some people will not. Will have to stay on medication, because that's how it is for the rest of their lives. I feel like sometimes the church has been limited in terms of helping people when it comes to healing. Our only method, that we know of, and I'm not criticizing, and I hope you can understand me, is that we've only thought that it's only by prayer only, that we can bring healing to people like that. But and I'm not saying we shouldn't, and I'm not saying we shouldn't even use scripture, but I'm saying there is much more than using the only prayer and scripture. We need to now be thinking, we need to come up with, God needs to give us wisdom so that we are more, relevant to things like this. I'll give you an example. If one of us, for example, God forbid, broke their leg now in the middle of a service, we're going to do something. We're going to rush. Maybe even the service will stop, and then we will whatever. We will take them to hospital. We'll get an ambulance, and then make sure that they get an X-ray, they get a cement or get something to support them for the next couple of weeks until they get better. We'll visit them. Maybe we'll even create a they call it what? GoFundMe, to raise money to support them. We'll visit, we'll call. But what about, you find that there's a huge, extreme difference when it comes to people with mental, who are battling with mental illness, that their healing is not given so much attention. We wish them, when somebody with a mental illness comes our way, we quickly wish them, we wish it away with prayer. We tell them to pray about it. We even judge them. Sometimes we say that they are either not praying enough, or maybe they have sin in their lives, or maybe it's demons and something, and it's been very, 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 very difficult. I remember for me, I have shared, some of you who know me very well know that I have a son who has autism. And it's been very easily because first of all, the noise, children, they're very vulnerable. They don't like a very loud noise, because what you think is not loud, for them, if they hear it, is 3 times. The volume is like 4 times exaggerated. And now we go to church. I am also going to church because I just need some encouragement. I need support. And then I go there and the loudspeakers are so blaring and I can't even sit in. And the irony is then I have to sit out, or the boy runs out. And then people come out and they're judging me and they're saying, what's wrong with you? Your boy is stubborn. Why are you always out? And that's what you keep hearing every now and then. And no one calls you even during the week to say, hey, how are you doing? How are you coping? How can we support you? No one, no one. Because what? We are so, as a society, very, very obsessed with the outside, the external. You have a car, you'll wash the car, you'll wash, wash it. You'll go out for a haircut. You'll go out for a pedicure, manicure. You will want to look good. You'll dress well and everything. Because again, it's out there. But we give very little attention to the inside. Mental health is invisible, is silent, but yet very I don't know that to call it a silent bomb, but yeah. So it's almost like the injuries are inside. The injuries are in the brain, so you don't see it. The injuries are emotional, you don't see it. So maybe that explains why we don't give it as much attention and why we judge. Yeah, so when we talk about illness, I also want the church to be thinking about and maybe reevaluating and saying, with each one of us who is listening, what is mental health? What do I understand when I hear that? Or when I hear the word mental illness? Because healing cannot take place if we don't even understand the whole, whatever it is we're dealing with, both for those who are already afflicted by it and those who are, supporting. But we need to understand, because our definition as individuals, but also as a church, is very, very critical as well, because it is going to define how we deal with mental illness. So mental illness, as you said, it's an illness. It is, its illness is defined, it is something, poor health resulting from disease. And then disease is an abnormal condition of a part of a body or a system of the body. So abnormal condition can be caused by environmental factors or genetic whatever factors as well, or defect. And then of course you have diseases characterized by symptoms, but that is going to be overwhelming for you and might go over your head. But for me, I'm saying we need to go back to mental health, understanding that, of course, generally speaking, we know mental health has to do with the thinking, our thought process, and of course that impacts on our emotions, and then that impacts on our behavior, and then that impacts on how we relate with other people, and then that impacts on how we relate with the rest of the world and ourselves. So when somebody, for example, is depressed, they will always be filled with negative thoughts. They constant. Now, how we know, all of us will feel sad from time to time, but the thing is, the way there's a way the diagnosis is made. If it is excessive, it is intense. If it is, then you're sad for 2 weeks and more, and then it's beginning to impact you, your body, how you relate with others. For example, how does depression impact you? It impacts, for example, how you whatever, you have suicidal ideations. You're not sleeping, or you're sleeping too much. Me, if I'm depressed, I think I would sleep less, because then I'm anxious the whole night. It would affect your appetite. You find you eat more, you eat less. You'll find that you want to withdraw from the rest of the world. You want to be by yourself. Maybe your mood, you might be irritable, or you might be violent, or whatever. It affects everyone differently. Maybe work, you'll not be able to do your work for some people. So again, there are so many, there's things we look at, like they have to be like about 3 or 4 to be able to say that you're either depressed. I know some of us use the word depressed a lot carelessly, but mental illness is a really serious thing. And and we need to educate ourselves, and we need to learn from our own, Christ. How was he? How did he treat those who were mentally ill? The Bible is saturated with many, many instances and examples of just what Jesus did when he was, he came across somebody who was mentally ill. Things stopped. Things stopped. He was not always in a hurry. He gave them attention. He did something until, and he did. And for every one of those in the Bible, he didn't use the same, kind of, let me use the word method. For some, he would put mud. For some, it would, you remember that story of the paralyzed man who was even put down through the roof. You remember the story of the man who was always near the temple gate, sat there for years, the woman with the issue of blood, all those, he was never in a hurry for such people. And he treated them with so much love and compassion. And that's something for us to learn, and we need to go back to the Bible. I was reading today and being reminded, you all know from the book of John, I think it's chapter 13, where we're talking about verse 30, 30 to verse 35. Can somebody read that for me? I don't know whether you're there. I also need to know how much time I have. I forgot to ask earlier on. Is somebody there? Can you read that for us? It talks about where it's the one another verse, where we are being reminded of love one another because you have been loved. And then I think there's somewhere in Romans as well, Romans 12, which talks about, the same, love one another, honor one another. And so we are being reminded that we were not created to exist, to be alone. We are created to be in a community. We are created to be supported. Even just from the book of Genesis, even when we are being told about, when we read the story of Adam and Eve, it was about God saying it's not good. And so you see that God is created, that we are created for relationship, and that's how we survive, that's how we thrive. Even the Trinity, it's all about relationship, there. And also we need to be asking ourselves, okay, how then can we support? Usually people who are mentally ill and their caregivers, like I said earlier on, tend to feel lonely, tend to feel isolated, and feel like people don't care. But we are being called to love one another and to love God. All of us are important in our life right now. Would do with our prayer, with our encouragement, with our overall, with God's love. How can God use us to be a vessel, and for them? The disease will go. Reminded that Christ came that they may have life in abundance. That restoration, that giving them that hope, for me is sometimes is all that people need, just to give them a reason. Now, when you hear about people who commit suicide, they commit suicide already. Of course, it's they are struggling with a mental illness, but they do that because then they feel like there's no meaning, there's no point of being alive. So they then want to just end they just want to end their lives. But yet there are people who, if they have those suicidal ideation and we are around them and we encourage them, then maybe we could be the reason they're still alive today. And that for me is also healing. It's not the healing the way you understand, where people are going to be healed completely, and also, but where the healing is the fact that even they know Christ, that there is hope, that they can look forward to tomorrow in spite of their challenges. I want to challenge the church, and I want to challenge us to think, bigger. There was World Health Day. I don't know whether you all remember, but it was on the 10th of October. Now, 10th of October, I was looking around, and maybe churches and maybe your church did something about it. But I feel like when you listen to most of the churches, and I'm not talking about any church in particular, but just a theme, a pattern, is they tend to you hear more about tithing, you hear more about expanding buildings, you hear more about this and that, but very little about mental illness, or even just having a budget. Churches have budgets, but how many have a budget for mental illness? And then, of course, if they do, how is it being used? Do we have somebody even just set aside, like I said, should continue? But as a church, what are we doing, putting in place to become a safe place for those vulnerable with mental illness, where they can come, to our church, and they can feel safe? Because when someone has mental illness, the first place they want police, the church. It's a divine opportunity for us as a church, but also because in terms of availability and accessibility, the church is always available. They know that when they go to church, they'll be ready to be able to help. What do we need to put in place to make ourselves a safe place, to make ourselves a place where not just something that happens once, but also apart from the ongoing, where we can accommodate those who are different. I found when I had, like I told my story of a child with autism, I failed to go to church because I felt that church was only designed for people who are normal, and no one cared about me. Till today, no one from my church or anyone has asked me, and maybe I'm exaggerating, I don't know, just even come home to just say, we are coming to home as a church, members to come and visit you and support you. Nothing like that has happened. But you find ways to cope and manage, with all this. So for me, when we talk about mental both illness and healing, it's not a one-time thing. It is a process, and it's going to be a little bit different. But the church also needs to remember that it's not going to be, prayer is good, and I think we need to pray, but there are attitudes. How have we received these people? Have we judged them? Have we what misconception do we have about them? We think they're violent people, so we keep them out, or they can't keep a job, or what? How can we, again, like I said, create a safe space, in the church, us become safe people for these people who are vulnerable and who have been affected. So I just want to end there, but I again want to remind us that we have that God calls these people to Him, that they should come to Him, and that because He is the source of hope. They are His people. They are important to Him, regardless of their affliction, and He cares about them very much. And so ours is really to think about how can we, as a church, become a safe space for people who are mentally ill, people with mental disorder, and what are we doing well? What do we need to do more? What do we need to do be less? And then I also asked you earlier on, all of us know mental disorder. By the way, some of the mental disorders are not going to be obvious. You'll find that someone will come to you and they'll say they want divorce, the man is difficult, but who knows, it could be, maybe part of that is behind that divorce. there could be mental illness or mental health. So it's not as obvious. Undiagnosed, we are not. Sometimes we are quick to judge and encourage. So with our love, God is calling love is patient. How can we be a vessel of love? And for me, that, is what we need to be thinking about. Thank you so much for listening, and God bless you.